Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Grid Buzz podcast, where we are back with our segment on sector times and star signs. We didn't do super well in the predictions last week, to be honest, at Imola, although I will say that the sector times did show out a little bit better than the star signs. Recapping where we were at. So last week, for my surprise performance, I had Franco Colapinto making it into Q2. This is kind of a technicality because he did make it into Q2, even though he wadded it up in Q1, but it's still a point for me because he made it. And the star signs had Yuki placing top 5, which he also wadded it up in Q1, started from the pit lane. Did actually end up making it back to P10, getting some points because of the VSC and the safety car. So got a little bit lucky there, but was not a top 5 finish. And so no points there. For my flop, I had Oscar Piastri at P4. That obviously did not happen. He got P3. So, the lowest position that he's finished since the Australian Grand Prix. But it was not a P4, so we cannot call it a flop. He was still on the podium. And Cheyenne had Leclerc P7 or lower, which actually did look like that was going to happen after the very poor qualifying performance out of Hamilton and Leclerc. But Leclerc was able to make it back up to P6. To be honest, probably should have finished higher if it wasn't for his series of unfortunate events that happened during the race that kind of set him back strategy-wise a little bit. Then for pole position, we both had Max Verstappen, who missed out by thousandths of a second on pole, so no points there. My top 3 were Max, Norris, and Leclerc. I actually did get Max and Norris right. I did not get Leclerc right, so I get 2 points there. Cheyenne had Max, Piastri, and Hamilton. Not far off, actually, but being close doesn't get you points. So she only gets points for Max, but she does get 1 point there. For my surprise or crazy prediction of the weekend, I had Antonelli finishing ahead of Russell at his home GP. That did not happen. He DNF'd on lap 44. Does Antonelli have an Imola curse like Leclerc had a Monaco curse up until last year? I don't know. Both times he's been at Imola, it has not gone well. But yes, no points for me on that prediction. And Cheyenne had Max not finishing well and then getting mad at Red Bull, which both of those did not happen, which was also interesting because she also chose Max to win, but she had this alternate universe where if he doesn't win, he freaks out on Red Bull. So
that's why it was a crazy prediction.
Yeah. So she split her strategy there. It was either, Max wins or Max doesn't win, I guess. She hedged her bets a little bit and she did come out with a point. So 1 point on Max getting first, no points on Max flaming out because that did not happen. So I am up 3-1 heading into the Monaco GP. We will see where we land at the end of this weekend. But Monaco, yeah, the most iconic track in Formula One, probably. It's one of the original circuits that was on the first season in Formula One. It's stuck around. It's weathered the storm. Everyone thinks of Monaco and kind of trying to win Monaco is almost like the pinnacle of F1 outside of, winning an actual driver's championship. It is considered a driver's track, meaning the car is maybe not as important as other circuits, and the driver can make a bigger difference here because of how technical the track is and low speed the track is. It is also considered a qualifying track because wherever you qualify is probably where you're going to finish, given how narrow the streets of Monaco are. But Imola was also considered a qualifying track, although, not as tight as Monaco for sure, because it's not a street circuit, even though it's a narrow traditional circuit. And we did get a lot of overtakes in Imola last week. Going to the one step softer compound and running the C6, C5, C4 maybe added some extra pit stops for certain people. The crashes also definitely led to extra pit stops last week. But heading into this year, there is the new rule where in Monaco, you must stop twice. So after the last few years of kind of that strategy where the pole sitter would essentially just pit early and then run a long stint on the back half, and even though the tires would go away, the track, especially under this generation of F1 cars where the cars are a lot wider, made it near impossible to pass, and you would end up just backing everybody up into each other, and no one would pass, and you would end up in this huge boring train, which has unfortunately kind of ruined the racing a bit in F1's probably most iconic track. So they are trying to switch it up this year. They're trying to mandate 2 pit stops. They're also going a step softer on the tire compounds, which will also probably encourage pit stops as well. So we will see whether that strategy makes Monaco a bit more exciting this year, or if it will be another qualifying GP like it has been the last couple years. But with that, we will head into our predictions. So starting out, what is the star signs surprise performance this weekend at Monaco?
I have chosen George Russell.
Okay.
This really just stems from, he posted this really aesthetic and cute Monaco Instagram carousel, and he just looked like he's really vibing out and looking like top 5 contender maybe.
I think we have to go a little bit higher than top 5 for George Russell, because I think he's finished top 5 in every race this season except last race.
Okay, fine. Well,
so you gotta
he's
go
not in my top 3, so top 4, but he's giving good vibes.
I don't know if that's a surprise performance, but we'll take it. I'll give it to you.
This is coming from someone that doesn't know anything about F1. All vibes. Okay, well, the vibes check out then.
All right.
So
George Russell gets back on his top 5 streak that he was on.
I'm not getting any points for that one next week.
I don't know. I mean, he's finished top 5 literally every single race except last weekend. So actually, no, I don't know if he did at Miami or not. I forget. But anyway, all right.
Mainly just props to his really aesthetic Instagram carousel.
All right. So aesthetic Instagram carousels.
Good aura. Good vibes.
Give you aura, which gives you
good aura.
Yeah. Gives you good aura. Yeah. Which gets you top 5s.
It's just like the way that he was looking at his Instagram. Like he's just like chill, and I feel like it's like a confidence about him.
All right.
Yeah.
George Russell, top 5 this weekend. I've got Alonso as my surprise performance. Very rough season for Alonso so far. Probably should have scored points on a couple of occasions. Arguably should have scored points last weekend, but due to a bit of a botched strategy and ill-timed VSCs and full safety cars, which caught out some other drivers as well, finished outside the points. I think the Monaco GP is Alonso's break into the points this season, getting some points on the board for Aston Martin, catching up to his teammate Lance Stroll on the points, which is surprising that Lance Stroll's in the lead because traditionally seen as not as good of a driver as Alonso. And to be honest, I think most people say he's underperformed Alonso this season, but has just kind of taken advantage of a couple opportunities and gotten points on the board while Alonso has a goose egg. So I think he breaks that streak this weekend and Alonso gets some points. Who's your flop for the weekend?
Max.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
On a driver's circuit, Max is flopping?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's just not doing it for me. There's something about him where I kind of have like beef with him a little bit.
Why are you beefing with Verstappen?
I don't know. I just feel like he's acting like he doesn't care, and that bothers me.
You had him on pole and winning 7 days ago.
That's because he had a baby, and I gave him like a little bit of a break with that. And he has a baby to impress. But now I feel like going into Monaco, like I feel like it's just like Max, I guess, but he just seems very like disinterested, and I'm pretty sure there's like historical evidence saying that he doesn't even really care, or he doesn't really think that Monaco's like a real race. So I feel like he's just like lackluster. He's not, yeah. So that's my flop.
All right. Well, that would be a pretty big flop considering that Max has placed very well the last few years at Monaco. I think he's won like two of the last 4 Monaco GPs or something like that. So yeah, that would be a flop if he doesn't perform. But what does not perform?
Let me check my notes. I put that he doesn't make top 5.
Doesn't mean, yeah, that would be a flop for Max Verstappen for sure, especially at a driver's circuit. All right, so
yeah, vibes say no thanks on Max.
We've got one Red Bull on our flop list, Max Verstappen, and we've got a second Red Bull on our flop list, Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki, why? You're coming for Yuki.
I'm coming for Yuki, your favorite driver.
I love him.
Yeah, I think Yuki looked pretty bright at the Japanese Grand Prix when he debuted at Red Bull, and I think that's kind of tapered off a little bit since then. You could argue starting from the pit lane, finishing P10 last weekend, even though he shouldn't have wadded it up in Q1 and started from the pit lane to begin with, was a good drive, but he got really helped out by those safety cars and some other events there. So I don't know. I'm predicting Yuki to finish outside the top 10, which when you have Max Verstappen, who I think is she's predicting a flop outside the top 5. I don't see how Max Verstappen finishes outside the top 5, but when he finishes inside the top 5 and Yuki finishes outside the top 10, he's gotten a good amount of seat time in the car now. He's not necessarily like brand new to the car. He should be somewhat used to it if he stays on this performance. And if we saw Sergio Perez finish outside the top 10 this year and he was still in the car, we would be talking about how big of a flop that is. And so I think Yuki's flopping this weekend. The car is, I'll give it to him, supposedly everyone says, and I think every driver who's been in that seat has somewhat proven it, a little bit difficult. And I don't know if Yuki's going to be able to really wrestle it around the streets of Monaco, given that dynamic. And so I'm seeing outside the top 10, no points finish for Yuki Tsunoda.
Is that revenge for me coming for Leclerc last week?
It is not. It is just how I feel. But maybe subconsciously it is. I'm not really sure.
I think it is.
Pole position. So I will start out here with the sector times. Charles broke the Monaco curse last year. That curse is gone. It's not coming back. Charles on pole again. Back to back. We're going back. We're going back to back here. At the time we're filming, practice 1 and practice 2 have already happened. And yes, I did see Leclerc crash into Stroll, but it was Stroll's fault. And so people are like, the Monaco curse is back. I've seen it. I don't believe it. That's bad energy. Charles Leclerc on pole.
I also put Charles Leclerc on pole.
Hey.
Last week I said he would flop, but this week he's in Monaco. It's his home turf. I feel like it's like kind of like a soul, what's it called? Circuit? Yeah.
Soul circuit?
Like soul, like it's like your soul, like when you have like soul dog or like a soul mate, it's like a soul circuit.
Oh,
I feel like it's his.
For his. Yeah, it's very special to him.
Charles Leclerc, no notes.
Yeah.
That's who I choose.
Yeah. It's definitely very special to him. Pretty sure he cried after he won it last year. Very, very special circuit to Charles. Also, he's historically been extremely quick at this circuit as well, but has just had the worst fortune, which is why everyone said there was the Monaco curse, because he should have won it multiple times before he did, and then just botched strategy decisions, pit stops, you name it, just kind of stopped that, and he broke that last year. So I think the trend continues. I think he, shows out for Ferrari, shows out for his hometown. Charles Leclerc on pole. Moving over to our top 3. What do you got at number 3 for the Monaco GP?
I put Fernando Alonso at my number 3.
Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, our
Okay.
F1 Zaddy.
All right.
Zaddy of the grid.
That would be.
Yeah, I put him at top 3.
Right.
I feel like he might have like he has like a sneaky success at Monaco this weekend. He's also like an unbothered king, which I feel like matches like the Monaco energy. It's like I know that I'm like it, but I'm like not gonna let you know that I'm it. Like it's gonna like come to him. He's not gonna chase it. It's just gonna like happen.
I mean, he's probably the most cursed driver on the grid, so he's definitely been waiting for it to come to him for a while. I'm sure he's won Monaco some point in the past, but he's definitely been just very unlucky in his general career, and even had a very funny radio message last week about how he must be the most unlucky driver in the world. But I did have Alonso as my nice surprise. I didn't necessarily have him third step on the podium, nice surprise, but I'd support it. Fernando used to be my favorite driver and still is one of my favorite drivers back in his Ferrari days. So I'd love to see him back up on the pole this weekend. I'd support it. I've got Oscar Piastri on the third step of the podium. I think, McLaren's obviously really fast. They've been fast at every circuit, and so it's hard to not have a McLaren on the podium for any race. It's hard to even not have a McLaren top 2, to be honest, because they probably should be top 2 for every single race, even though that hasn't necessarily panned out. Oscar last year performed very well at this track, even when his form wasn't as good and Lando's form was better. His form is better this year up into this point for sure. And so I'm putting Piastri as my sole McLaren on the podium. Like I said, they probably should be top 2 for basically every race, but I'm calling McLaren's best finishing position is P3 this weekend, and I think it'll be Oscar Piastri who takes that step. Who do you got number 2?
I put Lando Norris.
All right. So you've got a McLaren in the top 3.
Yeah.
Not a bad choice.
Yeah.
What are the vibes saying for Lando Norris?
I mean, he's coming off of a pretty hot streak. I feel like he's done pretty well. Kinda.
Not really.
No.
I mean, yes, he has done well, but has he done well in comparison to the expectations that were had for him this season? I think most people would say no. But he is second place in the Drivers' Championship, so yeah, objectively, yes, he's done well, but like relatively speaking, I think most people would say maybe not.
Well, the vibes say yes.
All right. So the vibes are turning this weekend. Lando Norris goes on his hot streak because of the vibes. What vibes are changing?
I feel like it's a little bit like Fernando Alonso. I feel like he has this like quiet confidence. I feel like he isn't one of the drivers that you would expect, and I feel like that will work in his advantage. I feel like if you're a little too confident going into it, you're a little more susceptible to having an ego, making stupid mistakes because you think that you are going to have it in the bag.
All right, fair enough. Well, he definitely doesn't have an ego right now. He's been pretty down on himself this season with his performances.
Yeah, but that's what he wants you to think.
Well, I think he has. I think he has been pretty down on himself. So,
well,
yeah.
I'm cheering for you.
I don't think there's been much of an ego though this season, at least so far. Maybe outside the Australia Grand Prix. So I will give you that. I will also give you that I don't think a lot of people have him P2 just because of the recent string of performance. So I will also give you the kind of underdog story that you got going there. I, on the other hand, have Max finishing P2. Driver's circuit. Max is just, I mean, Max not finishing top 3 is just like pretty crazy at this point. Even when he has a car that's not the fastest car, he could easily take a P1. To be honest, Piastri, Norris, Max, like they could all easily take take a P1, but I think Max is coming in number 2. His qualifying pace has been pretty good this year. I mean, his qualifying pace is always good, but even when the McLarens have had a lot faster race pace, his qualifying pace has been not far off or even ahead. And with this being, a quote unquote qualifying GP, I think that puts Max in a good position to kind of round this out with a P2 this weekend. We'll see how the 2-stop strategy influences this typically seen as qualifying race. Maybe that throws a wrench in these things a little bit. Maybe that's how Alonso ends up on the 3rd step, is because of some strategy decisions on the 2-stop. I don't know, but I've got Max P2. And who do you have on the top step of the Monaco GP?
No surprise, Charles.
Let's go.
Yeah. Home race. A little bit of a redemption arc, breaking the Monaco curse again. Solidifying that it's gone.
All right. We're taking the curse, throwing it away.
Yeah.
Locking away the key.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really cute moment because I think he's going to cry. I think the crowd will cry. I think you might cry.
I might have teared up.
Do I get an extra point if you cry?
To be honest, I might have teared up last year when he won. I can't remember, but I might have.
All right. Well, if a tear falls, I get a bonus point.
I know I got really sad when Ricciardo retired. I was bummed all day, so I wouldn't be surprised if I teared up when Leclerc won.
If a tear falls, I get a bonus point.
All right. So bonus point if a tear falls.
That's not part of my crazy prediction.
When Leclerc wins.
Actually, no.
All right. Well, I've got Leclerc winning as well. Like I said, I think he keeps that Monaco curse locked away. Shows out that he is the king of Monaco. Practice has already happened, and he sat on the top step of practice. The Ferraris actually look quick this weekend, which is a first because they have not really looked that quick the last couple weekends comparatively to other cars. They did put their old specification rear wing back on the car from last year. Has that made a difference? Does this track just suit their car more? I don't really know. I mean, once again, practice is also practice. Like Pierre Gasly, I think last weekend was P2 or P1 in practice. And, if that's saying anything, we can't judge practice too much, but the Ferraris do look quicker. Charles is the king of Monaco. So top step for Charles. And moving over to our crazy prediction for the weekend to round us out.
Okay, this is crazy.
Crazy. How crazy?
I predict that. I mean, this is just so silly, but I think it's fun. I predict that Max not only doesn't place top 5, but I think he just throws his hands in the air and is like, look, I just bought this new $12 million euro or whatever stupid expensive yacht that's just sitting in the harbor of Monaco that has the perfect view into watching this race. I'm just going to go chill on that yacht and watch you little hooligans drive around these streets, and I'll just take advantage of this beautiful boat that I just purchased that's sitting here waiting for me in this harbor.
That is probably more than a crazy prediction.
I think he's just going to do Max just does whatever he wants. I think he's going to be like, why would I drive on this stupid track that I've historically said I hate when I could just go chill on this yacht? That's what I would do.
Right. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think that's a free point for me. Although I do think that happened once in the past, if I remember correctly. I think it was maybe Raikkonen. Forget. I think for some reason I'm thinking it's Raikkonen, but I definitely could be wrong here. Where he crashed in the middle of the race, couldn't get back on the grid, and walked over to a yacht and just kind of partied and kicked it while the rest of the race finished.
Okay, so maybe some driver did that. So maybe that's my crazy prediction. Maybe my crazy prediction is Max, and I'm not wishing this upon him. Actually, we have beef. I wouldn't wish a crash on him though.
Why do you have beef with Max?
I don't know. I I think what bothers me is that he literally just had his baby and then he like ditched his baby the one weekend he had off to go drive more. It's like, you don't drive enough.
I know why you have beef with him.
Why?
It's because at 6 a.m. every Sunday when I'm watching Formula One and you're trying to sleep in, it's the Dutch national anthem that's on the TV. That's why you're beefing, isn't it? Because it's like an alarm clock for you.
Maybe subconsciously that's my beef. No, my beef truly comes from just the fact that I feel like has this cute little baby, and I feel like I don't know. Again, I don't know. This is just coming from nowhere. But if he crashes, I could see him being the first one to be like, okay, I'm going to go chill on my yacht now.
All right. So Max is going to pull a Raikkonen. Like I said, I don't even know if that was Raikkonen. I feel like it was. The vibes feel like it was a Raikkonen type move, but someone did it, and Max is going to repeat that. Mm-hmm. That is a pretty crazy prediction. I will give it that. Moving over to my crazy prediction, I think mine's a little bit more realistic. But to be honest, mine's maybe so realistic that it's not too crazy, but I'm going to call it anyway. Williams gets another car in the top 5 finish this weekend. So some people might not say it's crazy because Williams has looked like they've had really good pace the last couple weekends. Obviously, last weekend, Albon did finish P5. Sainz finished a couple spots back, but probably could have finished even farther up if it wasn't for some strategy. And Albon probably also could have finished farther up P4, maybe even P3 if it wasn't for that incident with Leclerc. So some people might not say it's crazy, but at this point, after the string of terrible performance that Williams has had for, I can't even remember how many years at this point, and now all of a sudden they out of nowhere seem to have some pace. I think back-to-back weekends finishing a car in the top 5 would be pretty crazy for Williams. I think it would also potentially be a signal that maybe they're coming back towards the top under new leadership with Vowles and some actually really talented drivers and a team that's historically thought of as a back of the grid team. Definitely not a back of the grid team this year, that's for sure. But yeah, I've got Williams putting one of their cars top 5 this weekend as my crazy prediction. And that rounds out this segment of sector times and star signs. We'll be back later this weekend / next week with additional episodes on race reviews, driver ratings, and a very probably exciting episode of F1 Fashion of Monaco, which I know that you will be excited about. So
very excited about that one.
Make sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and we will see you all later.